Hello, hello. And in this video, I'm going to go over how nodes and variables work inside Godot, how you connect things and access properties. These were concepts that I was struggling with at the very start of my journey, so hopefully this can clarify a lot of things for you, and let's get right into it. Alright, I'm going to hit this plus button to add a new scene. When you create a new project, it's probably going to look like this. I'm going to click this user interface and that'll give us a control node on top. I just want to create a script on this. And for the path, I'm going to throw it in a very specific spot for me, but you guys can keep it wherever you want. So I've got the script right here and I just wanted to go over a couple things that I think a lot of beginners, a lot of people who are new to Godot and GDScript don't really understand. And this is how variables, functions, and nodes interplay with one another. So when we create a variable, we have variable, and then this could be anything, right? I'm just going to call it counter, and I'm going to give it a type, integer, and I'm going to initialize it with the number 1. So I'm starting off with var, which is short for variable. I'm basically letting Godot know that whatever is following after it is a name for the variable. Once you have a variable and its name, you can then choose what type of variable it is, which is, in my case, it's integer. And then by using the equal sign, I can set the variable to something. In this case, 1. The reason why having a type is pretty useful is because if you throw in something that isn't part of this variable's type, say I throw in a string, then Godot is going to say, hey, you can't assign a value of type string to a variable that's being told that it's an integer. So let's get this back to 1. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create another variable to drive things home. So it's going to be var indicating variable. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this new array. That's the name of my variable. And then I'm going to tell Godot what type it is by using the colon. And I'm going to call it, it's going to be type array. And now I'm going to initialize it as an empty array by using the square brackets. Just to make sure things are working, I'm going to save this. Let's see, save it wherever you guys want. I'm going to throw it in here. And I'm going to use this ready function. We haven't really talked about the functions yet, but just know that in almost every node that you create, you can use this ready function and do something inside it. So what I want to do is I'm going to print counter, and I'm going to print new array, just like this. So this counter is supposedly 1, and this new array should be this, the square brackets. So let's see how Godot interprets this as I run my scene, and this is just part of my game, ignore that. But you're going to notice in the output, it's going to give us 1, and it's going to give us the square brackets. That makes a lot of sense, right? Alright, so now I'm going to create a new scene by hitting this plus button right here, and I'm going to use other node this time. The root node that I want to create for this scene is going to be texture rect. So I'm going to create that. And you're going to notice the difference between the scene that we first made and then the scene that we made after that is just the node on top is different. The first one is a control node, and then the second one is a texture rect node. So I'm going to attach a script here and throw it in to a random folder. And I'm going to save this as well. Okay, so I wanted to look at this texture rect because we are talking variables, and a lot of these nodes have something called properties that are built in to the node itself, into this texture rect node. And they are variables, we call them properties that we can manipulate. So this one, if I left click on texture rect, it's going to open up these properties. If I mouse over, you can see that these are the properties. This is the texture property, and it tells you the type right there, texture 2D. This one, the property is expand mode, the type is expand mode, so on and so forth. I've got this texture rect node, and The reason why a lot of people might be using a texture rect node is because of the properties that the texture rect node has, which in this case is the texture property. Because it has this property, I can use this icon.svg, a picture of the Godot robot. I can drag and drop this into here. And inside our 2D, we can see the texture that we threw in. Just like that. So that's why you might want to use different nodes, but in terms of variables, what does this really mean? I'm going to open up the ready function, the one that we haven't really gone over yet. We can see that right now our texture rect is located in this corner right here. And I'm going to open up this layout right here and show you some more of the properties that this texture rect node has. And we're going to open up transform and you're going to see position. If I mouse over this position property, then it opens up and shows me all the information that I need, telling me that it's a position property, it's a type vector2, and it gives me a little hint on how I should be setting something to it. Equals vector2, parentheses, 0, comma, space 0, parentheses. If I type in position equals just the same thing that I saw from that type hint, just like this, right? Then it works. But say I want to just change this to 10. Okay, so I'm going to save it and I'm going to run this scene. And you're going to notice that it shifted 10 pixels because I changed the property inside the script. It looks like this before I run my game. And as soon as I run my game, it moves over 10 pixels. Let's create a new variable. Variable end position. It's going to be a type. Do you guys know what type it needs to be for me to use this for the position? It has to be a type vector2. Because otherwise it wouldn't accept it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say variable end position of type vector2. And I'm just going to do vector2 100 0. And now I'm going to use this end position right here and I'm going to run it. And now it's 100 pixels over. So you guys can see how we can access the property of the node that we're talking about, and then we can set it equal to a variable of our choice. And so this is a lot of the reasons for why we choose nodes in the first place, because we want to access the properties that they have. And then we, as game developers, game designers, create variables that we then substitute into the properties that we've exposed and manipulate our game by using these variables. If I have another texture rect under here, say I create a child node, and it's the same texture rect, right? I have this texture rect, and it has the same properties. It has the same position property. So this one, position property right here. This one, position property right here. How do I change this one's position property? Can I just type position? No. And the reason for that is the only reason we can use this position property like this is because our script is on this node. So when a script is on a node, we can use the properties of the node just directly inside the script. So like this, I can use size and I can set it to, it's a vector2. Vector2, 0, 0. I can do the rotation as well. This one is just a float. Yep. Rotation equals 0.0. So all of these, the only reason I can use these properties is because my script is on this node. And so I can freely call the properties of this node. But for me to access properties of this texture rect, I need to make a reference to the node. So how we make node references is you unselect it, and then as you select it, you hold Control, you click and you drag. Or you can type this in at unready. It's a variable as well. It's just a node reference though. And what this is doing for us is it's getting this node path, which means that inside your script, you're going to have access to this node. All that means is once a node is referenced, we can call this texture rect. We can access the properties inside that node. Just like this. Same goes for the size. And of course, the rotation and so on and so forth. Alright, so the one thing that you do have to know about these node references is that this is basically a node path. So if the hierarchy of your node changes, the reference may no longer be valid. There's a lot of different ways you can go about this, but I believe the unready and this way of getting the node is one of the simplest, and I still use this a lot. For simplicity's sake, I'm just gonna only go over this method of connecting nodes. But to show you that this can break, I'm gonna run this, and we don't have an issue right now. But let me create a control node. And then I'm gonna throw this, the same texture rect that we have, one node deeper inside this control node. And now when I run it, I'm going to get an error. And the reason for this error is because we can no longer find where this texture rect is. It's looking for it at this position right here, but if I were to use what I used before, control, click, and drag, we're gonna notice that the node path changed. And so if I use this updated one, then it's gonna run properly. Okay, so now that we've gone over that, I'm gonna go really quickly over some ways you can use this, some ways you can think about this, but the texture rect is a little bit too boring, so I'm gonna delete these string of nodes, and I'm gonna control A to create a child node, and I'm gonna add a timer. The texture rect, as we know, has its own set of properties, and the timer has its own set of properties as well. And I want to expose the timer's properties inside my script, but my script isn't on the timer, so that means I need to make a reference to it. So control, click, and drag to get the timer reference. I'm deleting this because it no longer exists in my scene. And now I get to delete this because this is no longer part of the scene. And I'm actually going to delete all of this as well. Or rather, I'll just comment that out. Timer.start when shot is on. Await timer.timeout. Tween, var tween, type tween equals create tween, tween.tween property self position and position 1. All right, so I quickly typed in a bunch of code. I haven't really gone over what the heck I just did here, but I just wanted to show you this is kind of the way you need to go about doing things. You need to connect your children nodes to the top to make references so that you can use properties. And later you can use functions of the node that you've connected. So just running the scene just to show you what I did. After I wait 1 second, then the node moves over to its end position. And you can kind of see how this isn't really a game in and of itself, but by layering a bunch of these things, you can start to move, you can start to make something that becomes a lot more like a game. Hopefully you guys got a better understanding of how these variables work, how they relate to nodes, how you connect nodes to access properties, and use those variables to change the properties that you have access to. Thanks as always for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe. And also if you want to support Wishlist Cauldron Craft, that means a lot to me. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.